Okay, everyone, one more try at this. Sorry for that disruption. So the pandemic book, 40 points to start out with. It's also just me acknowledging the reality of how hard it is to be a student and wanting to kind of acknowledge, even if you just locked up and couldn't get anything done on the test, that doesn't mean you haven't learned it. So I kind of recognize that, and so I'm starting every student at 40, and then you're building. You'll notice as the curve goes over, so there's actually a point right here. What this point represents, like the steepness of these lines goes down. So the slope of these lines is increasing, getting closer and closer to zero as you go over. So getting from a 40 to a passing grade to a 60 does not take, takes like some number of points. I can't remember exactly what it is. It takes exactly 20 points to get up to a 60. Right? Once you're at a 60, it's a little harder to get from a 60 up to an 80. To get from a 60 to an 80, it takes 32.5 points. You need to get 32.5 points to get to an 80. So from 40 to a 60, each point counts for 1%. Each point is 1%. From a 60 to an 80, each point is 4/5 of a percent. So you have to get 5 points to earn 4%. Once you get to an 80, the slope changes again, and it's harder to go up from there. From an 80 to a 90, it takes 27 points. So you earn about 1/3 of a point for every, it's the 1/3 of a percent for every point. So you need 3 points to earn 1%. And then it gets harder again, 1/4 from an A to an A plus. And then you have to get up to 124 points to get 100%. So the idea is it gets harder and harder to go up. Yeah, Alex.
How is it, like, are we only being graded on what we have done?
Only you earn points for correct answers. Every correct answer you get points for. Answer as many questions, get as many points as you can. That's how the test will work through the year, right? You just want to earn as many points as you can. Yes, Sam? Yeah, I'm going to explain the equation now. I just wanted to say one more thing here while I'm here. So 0 questions, you do get that 40. It's important for me to communicate that F, right? I'm a huge believer in trace them, even though it came down off the wall because I got the wrong sticky stuff. Right? The mistakes, failure, those things are not bad. One of the things that I think is a really, the valence is bad. But I firmly believe that you need to have courage in your life to put yourself in positions where you fail. It's hard in high school. High school is not designed like that. In college, it's designed exactly like that. You go into any class you want. You could take 12 classes in a single, at once in college, and most colleges will just let you do it. You could take classes that occur at the same time and not even go to the classes, just show up for the final exams. I had friends who did that. I had a friend who got 6 majors all at the same time. His first majors came in after 3 years, and then he got a bunch more in his 4 years at school, in college. Right? You're just allowed to do whatever you want to do, and he just could read the book and learn the content and just show up at the final. He didn't show up to any lectures. He'd just show up at the final exams and get A's. That's awesome. He had a hard time putting himself in positions where he could fail, but he did. What he would do in a lot of cases, he'd show up for the class or sign up for the class, get the what's the thing called, the syllabus, and he'd read through the syllabus and say, I'm not ready for this. And then, unlike here, where you show up, you're 1 week into class, and I'm sorry, you got to stay here for the rest of the year. In college, you have like a full month where you could just say, this class isn't working for me, I'm going to drop it. And then nothing shows up on your transcript. right? I think high school would be better if it was a lot more like that. You had a lot more freedom to choose the classes that you wanted to take, try them out, drop the ones that weren't working for you, add on. You can add on classes 2 weeks into the semester in college, 3 weeks sometimes. Anyways, I tried to use the F as a communication. It's not me saying that something is bad about you. It's saying that the things that you've been doing, the ways that you've been preparing for class, have not been working. So, come after school. Start like working at Pi R squared. Start finding students who got really high grades on the test, finding them and saying, look, I see you're doing a lot better than me. I am working hard, but I'm not making the kind of progress I want to make. Do you think we could study together? Because the best thing you can do for yourself is be honest with yourself about where you're at. And that's one of the responsibilities I have. I hate giving students grades that they're not happy with. I hate that feeling, but I know how important it is to their success. So, if you got a grade you're not happy with, if you got an F or a D, even if you got a C, think hard about the way you're approaching things and how you can change. I do believe that anyone in here, with the appropriate application of effort, not just application of effort, but the appropriate application of effort, taking advantage of the resources that you have, everybody in here can earn A's on the tests. Okay, so then I also, so there's the numbers, but then I also just wanted to break it down in terms of questions. If you got 0 questions right, then you got an F. If you get 2 questions correct, 2 questions, two full questions, like problem 7 and problem 8, you got both of those correct, you'd earn a D. If you got 3 correct, you get a C. If you get 4 correct, you get a B. If you get 6 correct questions, it's a hard jump from B to an A, 6 correct questions, you earn an A. And then 8 correct gets you an A plus, 96.5, which rounds up to a 97 A plus. And you need to get all the way to 12 correct questions, 144 points, to get 100%. And there's plenty of students who achieve that. Okay. So here we go. By plenty, I don't mean a dozen. Definitely not. How to calculate your grade. This is what's called a piecewise function. The way the piecewise function works is you take your input P and you look first at the cases, the various different conditions. And you plug P in over here to figure out which one of these cases applies. So for instance, if you got, let's say, 54 points. Think a little harder about that. I'm sorry. I want to do my first one as one that's easy to calculate. That's 4/5. 4/5. So 5 more, 25. If you got 25 points, let's do 25 first before we do 54. If you got 25 points on the test. So this is another important thing. Take a pause for a minute. Make sure that when you look through the test, you look at all the circled red numbers and you sum them up. All the circled red numbers, add them up, and make sure that it's equal to the number at the top on the front page, which I just realized is a recursive formula because the number at the top on the front page is circled. And so if you do that, you keep going higher and higher and higher. So omit the number at the top of the front page, some of the other circled red numbers, and check to see that it's equal to the circled number on the front page. Mistake on yours? Uh, Also, something Elena just thought, I totally messed up her test, and left points for a question completely out. I checked it, gave her credit for the problem, but then I did not give her the points for the problem. So, she pointed that out to me. Definitely, checked to see that I didn't do that. It takes a long time to grade these, and I doubtless make mistakes.
You just still didn't get it. I still didn't get a grade on this one. I'm just a little.
One second, sorry, I'm whirling because I'm going to get this stuff applied. That's a great change.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes. Because you got both of those working.
But I didn't.
Then we have, you have it right away. It's 22.
That's that.
What's the topic? I think my last year, I trust your number one in here.
Yeah. Did I get 15? I don't have No, mine, no, we don't have the same. Mine is we just like literally just, we have like 20 minutes doing piano, whatever we want on the piano. And then he goes on the history.
I also stole 24 points from Ji Chang. Yeah,
So how many?
24 points.
Music notes, that's actually writing notes. We don't write.
That's funny.
No, write notes.
Has everyone double checked? Make sure? Okay. Oh, yeah. Yeah, I'm gonna explain this now. Okay. So here's how you calculate. You take this number here, the input. Sorry, are you explaining it, Justin? How to do it? Okay. Like I was thinking, I know some of you probably already figured out how to do this, you know. I'm gonna explain it actually. 25, yeah, I think it's better for me to explain the first one. Maybe somebody else will explain the second one. But the second example. So the first thing you do is you look through the list of the cases and you say, which one does the 25 match? Right? Is 25 greater than 124? No. So you kind of cross that off. Is 25 between 96 and 124? No. Is 25 between 72 and 9, ooh, I'm missing, that should be less than or equal to. Is 25 between 72 and 96? No. Is 25 between 45 and 72? No. Is 25 between 20 and 45? Yes, it is. So then you know that you're using this line to calculate the output of the function g when 25 is the input. And then you take 25 and you plug it in right here for p. Right? 25 minus 20 is 5. 5 times 20 over 25 is 4/5. 5 times 4/5 is 4. 60 plus 4/5 is, 60 plus 4 is 64. Right? Let me write that out, especially because I said it wrong. I wanted to. Anyway, 60 plus 20 over 25. There's a reason I left it 20 over 25 if you want to try and figure that out. And then I put the 25 here minus 20. Right? We decided that we're using this because that's the case that it matched. 60 plus 20 over 25 is 4/5 times 5 equals 64. So if you got 25 points, you earned a 64 out of 100, 64% on the test. Let's do another one. Let's do it's not a race. Yeah, that can be okay. If on the other hand, let's say, I think I said 57 before, let's do a 57. What does a 57 earn you? So can someone talk us through how we figure out what G of 57 is over here? What are we going to do with that 57? How are we going to figure out, how are we going to read this to get the score with that 57?
You plug in 57.
To the third one you said? How did you figure out the third one?
Because between 45 and 72.
There we go. That's it exactly. Right, 57 is between 45 and 72. So we use the third one here, and that's the one that we use. 80 plus 10/27 times 57 minus 45. Thanks. 57 minus 45. 57 minus 45 is 12. So you get 80 plus 10 over 27 times 12. Then you can plug that into your calculator or do some tricks. Let's see, there's a 3 and a 3. So that's 9 and that becomes 4. So 40 over 9. 80 plus 40 ninths, which is 4 and 4 ninths. 80 plus 4 and 4 ninths. So about 84 and a half, a little under 84 and a half. Yeah. Oh, here's a good check for understanding. How many points do you need? How many points do you need to earn B? To earn an 80%? See your hand, Sam. How many points do you need to get that 80? There's two ways to figure it out. There's kind of the way that involves a bunch of calculation, and then there's the quick way. So I want to do the way that involves all the calculation first. Okay, yeah, Adam. Go. Yeah, sure.
45?
45, okay. So if we take a 45, let's calculate, let's see if Adam was right. So which one of the lines do I use for 45? The second one, because p is less than or equal to 45. Right, so we're using this formula, 60 plus 20 over 25 times p minus 20, p minus 20. 60 plus 45 minus 20 is 25. 20 over 25 times 25. Now you see why I left this 20 over 25. Right? Those 25s cancel out, and you get 80. Did anybody see a faster way to calculate that? Yeah, Sam.
Maybe it's like, you see how there's the 80 plus and then the next one. And if you go, so I was originally gonna say 45 because of the, on that, like, in that section, the lowest number there is 45. So I thought there might be like a correlation between the plus over on that far side and the, like,
What if putting a 45 in here gave a different number than putting a 45 in here? What would that look like? Well, what it would look like graphically is it would no longer be continuous. It'd be discrete. You'd have a jump right at the y value corresponding to 80. Right? Imagine plotting the points. You plot 45, and then it's going to, instead of going at that same place for this formula, it would be up a little higher or down a little lower. Right? So I wanted to be able to draw the curve continuous, make it continuous, so I needed to make sure that the calculation of 45 plugged in here was the same as the one plugged in here. And Sam is saying, well, if you plug 45 in here, 45 minus 45, that's 0. You can forget that, and there's your 80. That's kind of a cool way to think about it. Okay, I think that's everything. I feel like I covered it all, and I did it much faster, and so now I'm nervous that I missed something. Anyone have any questions? Either about content, about how you can put yourself in a position to get the grade that you want in the future, about how this works. That's a question that I wanted to ask the room. Is anyone sitting out there saying, I still don't know what my grade is? Like, if people are sitting out there saying, I still don't know what my grade is, I'm happy to do some more examples of using it. Yeah. The test that we're doing on Monday is for term 2. The notebook check is for term 1. Don't worry too much about this, like, totally trashing your grade. I don't think it's going to totally destroy anyone's grade, but it might bring it down. But that's better to have that conversation now rather than at the end of the year. Okay. Yeah, the notebook check is also going in your test. Yeah. So that's another place to boost it. Yeah.
I had a question about the Khan Academy lesson.
Yes.
Is that like the Khan Academy that's we Friday that we turn in, or is that just like the last Khan Academy that we turn in?
Yeah, so the Khan Academy assignment in Google Classroom. Unfortunately, I only made it through like a third of the room in the Khan Academy day, so you don't have this marked on your notebook. But one of the things that I'm doing when I'm doing the Khan Academy check is I'm looking at your last submission for Khan Academy Notes 1, and I'm going to the end of that. And I'm finding that in your notes, and I'm marking that as checked 10, 12. Right? Because that's when I checked that, October 12th. I should have marked it in there when I did the last Khan Academy check. I forgot to write it down. So I'm writing in my own handwriting in your notebook, check 10, 12. And then I'm looking all the way through to the most current Khan Academy notes. So all your notes from there from the end of what you submitted for Khan Academy Notes 1 up to when I check, and I'll put checked 11/8 or I guess 11/9 or 10, whenever we do the next Khan Academy day, there's going to be another chunk of time. It won't be a full period, but there'll be another chunk of time where I'll do some Khan Academy. What I want in Khan Academy Notes 2 is all your Khan Academy between those two. Right? All the Khan Academy that you did from the last check until today, or whenever it is that you submit your Khan Academy. Speaking of Khan Academy, I have some Khan Academy problems. To finally go over. Is that what we should do now? I think so. There we go. Average rate of change, graphs and tables. Over which interval does G have an average rate of change of 0? This problem kind of came at a time after I just showed off this graph. Let's think about average rate of change. What's the average rate of change when we have a graph? What's another word for average rate of change? Slope. It's the slope, right? Look at the green curve. Right? The thing that I was playing with when I was developing this, the curve that I used for this class, the thing I was playing with was the slopes. I played with the slopes. I looked at this slope, the slope of the line between 40 and 60, and played with what that was. Right? And then there's another slope between 60 and 80, and another slope between 80 and 90, and another slope between 90 and 96.5, and another slope between 96.5 and 100, and then between 100 going on. Right? And that slope is changing over time. Now, if you think about here, getting 0 right and a 40, and here, if I wanted to know what the average rate of change between those points is, I wouldn't go along the green curve, I'd go straight. I'd draw a straight line, and the slope of that line would be the average rate of change. So whenever you're finding the average rate of change, you take the coordinates of the 2 points, and you just imagine drawing a line through those points and finding the slope of the line. In other words, you use the slope formula on those 2 points. And I don't like the slope formula. The way I like to think about the slope formula is to just think of it as the change in y divided by the change in x. Right? That's what slope is, the change in y over the change in x. So they're wanting us have an average rate of change, the change in y over the change in x, of 0. Just as a reminder, the change in y, a lot of people like this formula. I prefer not to use the formula because it, in my mind, kind of pushes a memorization approach. But if you have this memorized, then I'm going to ask you to take it to the next level and really just think of that as you're changing your y values over your change in the x values. So tell me what we know about the change in y over the change in x if it's equal to 0. What needs to be true? If I have a fraction that equals 0, what do I know about the 2 numbers in the fraction? The numerator is 0, right? The numerator has to be 0. Delta y has to be 0. So then we look over at our table here, right? Here's our y values. We've got to pick 2 y values that are the same. Oh, I have 6 and 6 here. Right? The average rate of change from -5 to 4 is going to be 0 because it's going from 6 back, it's going down a bunch, but back up to 6. Right? If I was to sketch a graph of this really quick, -5, 6 is up here, -4, 4 is here, -3, 2, -2, 1, -1, -1, 0, -2, 1, -3, 2, 1, 3, 3, 4, 6, and 5, 9. Those two are on the same level. So if I was going from this x value, -5, to this x value, +4, the slope of that line would be 0. Are there any that are asking me to go from -5 to 4? No, -5 to 1, but not -5 to 4. Okay, so forget that. Are there any other pair of points that have the same y value? That pair right there, that's -2, that's 2. Right, at -2 we're at 1, at 2 we're at 1. Right? -2 we're at a slope of, -2 we're at a y value of 1, and at 2 we're at a y value of 1. So the slope between those 2 points is 0, and that's what we're looking for. Is there any over here, answer choice what's the definition of a relation? A
Correlation.
correlation. Yes. Is that the word? Correspondence. Correspondence. I kept thinking the word correlation. It's funny, you read my mind, but correspondence is the word I was trying to think of. Is there any option over here that corresponds with -2 to 2? Option choice C is -2 to 2. Right, so there's your answer. Any questions on that? Once you get this, it's going to be a pretty quick Khan Academy exercise. But if the problem with these multiple choice Khan Academies is sometimes you'll get 4 in a row correct, and you won't actually get the idea. Like that's why I wish on some of these it was 7 in a row for the multiple choice ones, because I don't want you to accidentally get it right. And then you hit the test and you're like, I don't know how to do this. Right? If you don't have, because on the test I'm not going to have multiple choice, and you're going to have to actually be able to write it out. So I recommend, like, hold yourself to the standard. Don't really put the answer in. Don't move on from the exercise until you actually know it well enough to be able to do it without the multiple choice answers. Okay, next problem. It's a spice trader. The price he charges for an order of cumin as a function of the size of the order is graphed. What is the approximate average rate at which the total cost increases as the order size increases from 100? Oh my gosh, that is not coming out. Not supposed to draw on the tape. From 100 to 600. 100 to 600. Unfortunately, I can't mark these points, but there's a point. From 100 to 600. So what's the price for 100 kilograms? Well, let's just go up here. The price for 600 kilograms, just go up here. That point right there, that point right there. In other words, the problem is just asking me, draw a line between those points, which I can't draw because of the tape, but draw a line between those points and find the slope of that line. This is a complicated way of saying the slope between the points. Actually, between those points, slope of that line that goes between those points. So how do you find it? Well, you just use the slope formula, right? Or you just kind of look at how much is it going up from here to here, right? It goes up by what? Well, it's going from, this is 500, that's 400, halfway in between, that's about 450. This right here, this is 1600, that's 1700, halfway between 1650 1650 minus 450 is 1200. My change in y is 1200. And what's my change in x? 100 to 600 is 500. Take away the zeros, 12/5. 2.4. Any questions on that? Okay, we're ahead. I've got 7 minutes left. I'm gonna erase all this. These boards aren't good. Okay, thanks. One second. Unfortunately, this part of the video is going to be super annoying. I'm not even standing in the screen. Oh, okay, don't do that. What happened there? I feel like I made it worse. I think that I need to wash this marker on it. Okay. Next thing. Do we do the Venn diagram in 5 minutes? What do we think, everyone? Why don't you all pick? Help me decide. Theoretical stuff. Just what the acronyms mean. I have some new acronyms for you. These 3 acronyms. I think you already know these 2. Why don't I do that? That'll eat up some time. I think that's a good thing. Just looking at the room, I feel like me trying to do a bunch of math right now would be a poor choice. TWII. This acronym I added to my list because I often run into situations where students reach a point of exhaustion and just check out. Very understandable. But when that happens, I'll often come up to a student and I'll say, why aren't you working? The answer that I almost always get is, well, I'm done. And my response to that is TWII. Work is infinite. And this is not the kind of image that I don't want the image in your mind to be what's the guy, Sisyphus, who pushes the boulder up the hill and it rolls back down, or like Adam who's holding the earth up. It's not that I'm like asking you to imagine. I'm not asking you to imagine like a task that's just unbearable that goes on forever. Right? When you finish the specific details of the assigned task, that means you have an opportunity to be creative about what you move on to next. A great option is to ask yourself the question, why does that work? Or how do I know that's the answer? Or how do I know that I'm done? Or how do I know that it's true, the answer that I put down? Right? And start writing some proofs. Another acronym, this one I think you've seen, but now it's going to be on the video. HDYK, what does that stand for? How do you know? And WDIW. Why does it work? Okay, I think that's my full list. We've got Traceum and Seopol and these 3. Minute and a half. That's tough. Maybe I'll just let that minute pass. Don't forget your notebooks. You were confused about what the C stood for. Little finger helping out. Yeah, yeah.
It's an 18.
No, 12. Okay.
Oh, yeah, that's eight. Same teacher. Oh, do you like it? She gets.
No, I don't have her, but she's like she subs a lot for mine because she's like mine is like, but she's okay. She's just
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I know how you feel. Mr. Henry. I looked at that result and I was like, oh no.
But it's not there.
No, you're still, you're like, because you were